What's a stupid question that someone legitimately asked you? Story 1. I was selling a used red suitcase on Marketplace. Had the pictures and dimensions listed. This person wanted to know if I had anything bigger, and I replied it was just this one suitcase I had. He then responds back if I had it in blue. I stopped replying back to him after that. Story 2. When my former brother-in-law found out I was going to Amsterdam, he asked, "How long will it take to drive there?" From Oregon. He wasn't kidding. He also asked if I was worried about the language barrier when I was headed to London. That was too much even for my non-worldly ex, who said, "Dude, it's England, like English. Ha." Story 3. This isn't exactly a question, but their lack of understanding was what was so stupid. Worked at Papa John's and got a guy phone up for an order and settled on our feed 4 for £15, or something like that, it's been a while, consisting of 2 large pizzas, 2 sides, and a drink, which I told them the deal consists of several times. No matter how I explained it, they could not grasp the idea that you could feed 4 people with 2 pizzas. They kept trying to order 4 pizzas because they thought it was advertising 4 pizzas. Story 4. Chatting with a buddy on shift at Starbucks. Someone walked in, went up the register, and asked for a recommendation of something cold. My buddy makes few suggesting, including iced tea. She asked him, "What's an iced tea?" He went quiet a few seconds and just responded, "It's tea with ice in it. I'm not trying to be rude, that's just what it is, and if it sounds condescending, I'm sorry." Story 5. A lady approached me as I was speaking with my kids in English and asked if I speak English in her American accent. That amused me, so I replied, "No, ma'am. I don't understand English and don't have the slightest of idea what you're talking about." She goes, "I really wanted someone's help who can speak English," so assumed she understood I was joking and asked, "Yes, then how can I help?" She goes, "Oh, but didn't you say just now you don't understand English?" And while my 8-yo and 10-yo looking at us in awe, 10-year-old even said to the lady, "Really? Oh." And this happened in London. Story 6. I worked in hospitality. An American guest visiting NYC arrived during a blizzard in John. She came right to the desk. "Why is there such bad weather? I'm on vacation. This shouldn't happen." Yes, it should. It's winter. We're in the NEUSA. Needed a strong poker face to do the guest service explanation. Anyone who has worked in hospitality knows the narrative in your head can differ greatly from what you say LLO. Story 7 years ago when I was in the Navy, I was having a violent reaction to some medication. I had made it into the office before I started throwing up. About 90 minutes and 3 sessions of the most violent puking I've ever had. This radio man walks into the bathroom, sees me gripping the side of a sink and asks this brilliant gem, "Radio man, did you just piss in there?" I just turned my head to look at him with dead eyes, breathing heavily after regurgitating a Snapple. Story 8. At work, my partner and I tasked the new guy to do the oil change on the truck. Mind you, he has more experience than the both of us combined. He asked, "Where is the drain plug?" And the worst part is that he couldn't do the oil change. Anyone who has the capacity to think could do it with less help than we gave him. Story 9. As someone that has a handicap, lost left eye in an accident when I was 2 years old, I've gotten a lot of weird questions. Having gotten a glass eye in kindergarten, the other kids was naturally curious. But in 5th grade, the dumbest question I have ever gotten came from a classmate and goes like this: "I have always wondered how is it that you can see with your glass eye?" The rest of the kids just looked on him with disappointment. Story 10. I'm a guy, and sometimes I enjoy hooking up with other guys. I have zero attraction to the parts of them that are socially considered masculine, but I also don't have any disgust towards them either. I'm indifferent. To me, it's just an easy way to get off. If I ever mention this online, I'm told I must be bisexual. Either I'm in denial, or I'm experiencing internalized homophobia, biphobia. Maybe that's the case for some people, but personally, I would be happy to identify as bisexual if I actually felt any attraction towards men. I just don't. And I don't like that I have to take on a label that doesn't align with how I genuinely feel. I've also heard I could identify as heteroromantic bisexual, but I don't like this either. I don't find men sexually attractive. Stop forcing me take on a label when I don't have the internal experience or external struggle that LGBT people have to deal with. I don't experience that struggle, and I don't want to pretend like I do. Story 11. I was driving my older relative in my Prius, which had the first comprehensive display panel on a car she had seen. She was impressed that it displayed the outside temp, which, okay, I guess that's fancy if you've never seen that in a car before. I started to adjust the heater for comfort, and she asked if I was now adjusting the inside or outside temperature. I said that even my fancy hybrid car cannot change the weather. Story 12. For background info, my next-door neighbors growing up bred a specific type of dog from just one male and one female and would sell the puppies for a buttload of cash. We did them a favor in an emergency once, and they gifted us the next runt of the litter as a thank you. Had the pup for 14 years. She sadly passed away last spring. This convo happened 4 years after the fact. Mom, did you hear the Smiths have another round of puppies coming? How do you think they'd be related to Rover? Me, isn't it the same parents? Mom, yes, how would they be related? Like, are they cousins? Me, if it's the same mom and same dad dogs as Rover, they'd be siblings. Mom, even if they're 4 years apart? Important to note that me and my sister are 4 years apart. Story 13. I knew a girl who would preheat the microwave. The first time I saw her do that, I asked her what she was doing, thinking she couldn't possibly be doing what I thought. When she told me, I tried to gently tell her that wasn't how microwaves work. That hit an instant trigger with her, and she snapped at me. That is what my dad does, and he said it should be done. As if that somehow settled the science of it all. Story 14. At work, I was orienting nursing students. I'm an LNA, but they were very, very new to hospitals. At first, their questions were fair, and I could see they were nervous. But then their questions started getting worse. It got so bad that when a patient asked one of them to plug in their phone charger, the student looked at me with it in their hands and asked, "What do I do?" Find an outlet and plug it in. Story 15. I was throwing up at work. Luckily, my school has barf buckets everywhere. I was wobbling down to admit defeat and go home and bumped into one of my dumber, socially inept coworkers. I was holding a half-full bucket of puke under my face with watering eyes and a runny nose, while waiting for the nurse to tell me what to do with the bucket so I could leave. Everyone is giving me wide berth, but many condolences. Expect for this schmuck who walks right up into my bubble. Wow, you look sick. Have you been throwing up? He then proceeded to try and tell the nurse how I was doing when she got back. Like I was a student, he walked down. He kept trying to make conversation with me, despite the fact that I was clearly miserable and just trying to go home. God, I hate that guy. He's passively misogynistic AF, which is annoying in a 98% female work environment. Story 16. Not questions, but statements that begged a question. Insurer, your policy covers 40% for wisdom teeth, per claim per year. Me, how many times can I claim for wisdom teeth? Insurer, as many times as you like. And another, me, I have incurable medical conditions, yes. Insurer, we declined you because of those pre-existing medical conditions. But you're welcome to reapply with a doctor's letter 5 years after being cleared. Me. Inku? Story 17. I was at my brother's house with my husband and another couple. We're outside waiting for fireworks to start on the 4th of July. His neighbor Michelle comes over, and my brother introduces all of us to her. He definitely said, "This is my sister Bibi." A while later, just Michelle, my friend, and I were chatting. Michelle was saying how cute my brother is and then looks directly at me and asks, "I don't know. Do you think he has a big dick?" My friend looks at me and immediately starts laughing, and I walk away because I can't believe she is stupid enough to ask me this question, and I kind of wanted to punch her. As I'm walking away, she says, What did I say?" I then told my brother exactly how stupid she is and that perhaps it was time for her to go back home. We were in our late 20s when this happened. Story 18. Are you guys triplets? Jewish triplets? Asked while getting pizza and a random customer turned to ask us. There are nearly 5 years between the oldest and youngest of us, and we were between 14 and 19, I believe, so that was weird already. And asking us if we were Jewish was also out of nowhere, as we are not. It also seemed like a legitimate question, not just someone intending harm. Story 19. Not sure why, but my entire family joined my little sister on her first date in 5th grade. We took her boyfriend to the frozen yogurt place, and we were trying different flavors before we filled our cups, and my dad said, "This mint one tastes like toothpaste." Her boyfriend, dead serious, thinking he was about to have a one-up, replies, "How do you know what toothpaste tastes like?" Without missing a beat, my dad said, "Because I brush my teeth." We don't let my sister live it down. We had to ask her every time she got a new boyfriend if he knew what toothpaste tasted like. She's married now to a teeth brusher, so all is well. Story 20. IDAK, but I remember this memory. So I met someone from my school, we're in the same grade, in a convenience store. And she asked if she could seat on the chair in front of me, and I said, yes. Then we kind of had a conversation, and then she legitimately asked me, "Are you spoiled?" out of nowhere, and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Are you a spoiled child?" LOL, that's the first time I ever got that kind of question. Story 21. Not me, but a friend's girlfriend was on vacation with him in another state, and they were looking at the moon, and she asked him if our state's moon looked that pretty. When I was in junior high, a boy asked our health teacher if he could go to the bathroom. He was told no. So a few minutes later, the boy raised his hand and begged again to go to the bathroom because his ovaries were full. The teacher was laughing so hard he had to leave the room. When he came back, he told the boy he could leave on the condition that he explained why that wasn't possible the next day. Same class. A girl asked if she could collect her egg the next time she had a period, then fry it in a pan. Same girl, same class. Told me my watch was broken because it said 13 o'clock. I was tired of her trying to look at my watch and getting me in trouble in class, so I switched it to military time. She spent the week lecturing me because I wasn't in the military and didn't need to know what time it was for them. Same girl, same class. She had beautiful red hair that had tight natural curls. One day she dyed it jet black and asked me what I thought about it. I told her it looked like black licorice. The next day she came in with unnaturally red hair and asked me what I thought about it. I told her it looked like red licorice. Years later I realized she was probably flirting with me for several months, then gave up because I was oblivious. Story 22. Do tacos taste good? I was a supervisor to a group of young EMTs and brought them a tray of Taco Bell tacos. I stopped, dumbfounded, and said, "You've never tried a taco." The 20-year-old said, "No, Mom always orders me the cheesy roll-ups." Edit. He used me as a reference when he got hired at the local police department. Story 23. Our local park has cherry trees. One of my friends from university asked, "You can eat fruit from the tree?" Like straight from the tree, which baffled me. He didn't know that you could eat fruit from a tree. He thought it was different to fruit you could buy at the shops. Came to find out recently via TikTok that this is actually pretty common, and a lot of Americans, in particular, didn't know you could eat fruit from a tree. Story 24. Are you sure? In regards to if I was born a woman, I have a male name spelling, thanks Mom and Dad, so I've had insurance push back my entire life. I was pregnant, and my insurance started refusing to pay because a man doesn't need the OBGYN. It took months to get them to fix it. I had to threaten to show my daughter being born before they realized I wasn't fucking with them. Story 25. So I was visiting my reserve, which is really close to a Canadian national park. There's always a bunch of international tourists who accidentally take the wrong turn and end up in a native reservation. But anyways, there was this one old Asian guy who was going to ask me directions to get to the park, but he had his hands on his head the whole time. Do Indians still scalp normal people? LMAU. Story 26. Mine is more of a statement, but almost every medical professional I come across says, "You're too young to be dealing with all this." And I stare at them because it had previously been established that I have spina bifida, which starts in the womb. They are fully aware of that before their statement. Was I too young when I was in the womb too? Story 27. I was on the beach with some friends when I was in my early 20s and someone, legit, stopped me to ask me how to get to the beach. I said, dude, you're like standing on it, and walked off. I had no time for such shenanigans. The other was when I was working as a cashier around the same time frame was the beach incident. So about 30 years ago. I live in New Jersey in a tourist town. Rang up a lamp for a girl. The price tag was $9.99, so with tax, $10.54. Me, your total is $10.54. Her, the sign says $9.99. Me, yes, there's tax too. Her, but I thought there was no tax in Delaware. Me, you're right, but you're in New Jersey right now. Her, me, someone woke up on the wrong side of the bay this morning. My coworker, ha ha ha. She got off the wrong ferry, didn't she? To the girl's credit, she came back about an hour later with an extra $1 and bought the lamp. She must have really wanted it. Story 28. My dad, stepmom, and I had put District 9 on to wind down for the night. We were at a part of the movie where the prawns were stealing cat food when my stepmom turned to my dad and asked, "Is this based on a true story?" Same night, maybe an hour later, she again turned to my dad and asked, "If Fizzle-Kit 10 and I were hanging from a cliff, who would you save?" When he refused to answer, she smiled all smugly and said, "Probably me." Oh, one time I got into an argument with her about whether humans are animals. She's very religious and believes we're not. Another time, I got screamed at because we got into an argument about tonsillitis. She insisted that it's a virus, and I argued that, no, it's a symptom of an infection. Viral, bacterial, fungal, whatever. Tonsillitis literally just means swollen tonsils. She grounded me. I've also had to explain to her that the sun is a star like all the other stars she sees. She was still skeptical because all of those stars are tiny. Story 29. A young man I have known now for years asked me, "Okay, if I'm driving the car and I maintain my speed at 60 kilometers per hour, how far will I have traveled after exactly 1 hour?" 60 kilometers, I told him. "Wow, that's so clever," he said. Bear in mind he was from a rural developing country, and had never had the advantage of math, mechanics, and experience with driving like many people have had. It was a legit question which, out of context, would sound really stupid, but he was a curious guy, and he was our driver. Nowadays, he leads an amazing wildlife program. Story 30. Playing rugby once at our opponent's ground, quite a long way away from where our team was based. One of our players badly broke his leg. It was an amateur game, so there weren't on-site medical personnel, so we had to call for an ambulance in the same way as you would if you'd injured yourself in the street. The captain got his phone from the touchline to make the call, promptly looked confused, and said, "What's the number for 999 round here?" 999 is the emergency number in the UK, no matter where you are. Story 31. I work at a liquor store. I had a phone call from a customer, and this conversation was painful. Me: "Hello, you've reached the liquor store. This is Lispy. How can I help you?" Lady: "Hi, do you sell liquor?" Me: "Yes, we sell liquor." Lady: "Do you also sell beer?" Me: "No, we do not sell beer, only liquor and wine." Lady: "Oh, do you still sell liquor?" I stared at my manager, who was sliding down the wall, tears rolling down her face, holding her stomach and laughing to where no sound came out. I'm at my wit's end at this point, but composed myself. Me: "Hey, there's a lot of wind on your end. Are you on the road?" Lady: "No, I'm driving." I hung up after this, just absolutely done. Just insert Squidward bashing his head on the registers. Story 32. Back before I went totally atheist, in my still searching phase, I was Wiccan for about a decade. During that time, I wore my pentacle to work. It was a beautiful piece of jewelry, Celtic knotwork in nature. My largely Christian co-workers stared. Then they got someone to come ask what they all wanted to know. "But doesn't that mean you worship Satan and sacrifice children?" Asterisk facepalm asterisk. I hoped that she was joking, but nope, she wasn't. So I explained loudly enough for people hovering outside the lunchroom door and those in the room corners to hear that. No, far from it, and further explained my religion, including the delightful fact that in order to worship Satan as they were thinking of it happening, the person would have to first be Christian, just a kind of upside-down variety, LOL, and believe in all that stuff. Minds were blown that day. Fortunately, my calmness in answering helped, hopefully, so that no one else had to suffer that kind of ignorance from them again. I know I didn't. Although I did have to answer lots more questions, they were not of such a hostile nature, and obviously people felt comfy coming to me to ask about Sikhs and Muslims and Buddhists, etc., because at that point I had become the religion whisperer, I guess. But to this day, I have to wonder why she asked me that question if she really believed it. I mean, I felt like I should whip around on her and cast a spell to turn her into a newt on the next full moon, but it probably would have led to me being set ablaze in the parking lot. And no, this wasn't in the back of Beyond either. In a suburban setting between Baltimore and D.C.